Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in, well, it's one of the most compelling and, frankly, paradoxical corporate dramas unfolding right now in Silicon Valley. We're talking about Meta's ambitious and now, you could argue, pretty beleaguered AI division.
Right, the powerhouse that gave us the llama models.
Exactly, the open source llama models.
It really is a stunning paradox, and the source material we've looked at just lays it bare. It's fascinating.
How so?
Well, on one hand, you've got Mark Zuckerberg apparently signing off on what our sources indicate is just this unprecedented annual investment.
Huge sums, right?
Yeah, upwards of $100 million just in salaries, trying to get the absolute premier AI talent globally, like aggressive poaching, building this tech equivalent of the Avengers.
Okay, so investing massively in people.
But then, almost at the same time, we see this sudden, really brutal wave of layoffs.
The 600 positions cut?
Yeah, exactly. And right after that, the very public sort of organizational sidelining of key figures, foundational people. It was like Jan LeCun, a Turing Award winner.
Wow. So the optics are just terrible, pouring in massive wealth, then immediately massive internal destruction.
It looks less like a strategic tweak and more like, well, like you said, organizational collapse.
So our mission really in this deep dive is to figure out why. Why did this happen? We want to trace the, rapid rise and then the spectacular organizational failure of Meta's Llama model line. Focusing really intensely on that gap between Llama 3, which is a huge success, and the Llama 4 fiasco.
And for this analysis, we've managed to distill some incredibly rich firsthand accounts. People who were right there.
Like who?
Our sources include really candid interviews with former Meta personnel, people right in the thick of it. Tian Yuandong, who was a FAIR research director, and Gavin Wang, who was actually on the Llama 3 post-training team.
So real insider perspectives.
Exactly. And we've layered that with HR intelligence, anonymous senior sources. What we get is a genuine insider's view of the internal politics, the strategic missteps, and crucially, the communication breakdown that seems to have triggered this whole crisis.
This isn't just about a bad product launch then. It feels like a story about the death of an ideal, almost.
I think that's a fair way to put it.
Okay, so let's unpack this right from the start. How is Meta AI even built? What was this utopian vision that the company initially signed up for?
Right, to get that utopian vision, you got to rewind the clock.
Yeah.
Back to maybe 2013, 2014.
Okay.
Zuckerberg's motivation back then, it was reactive, you could say, but also kind of brilliant. Google had just snapped up Geoffrey Hinton's famous deep neural network team.
Right, that acquisition basically kicked off the whole corporate AI arms race we see today.
Exactly. Meta needed a counter. They needed a credible foundational AI strategy, and they needed it fast.
And their counter was Jan LeCun, a huge name, one of the godfathers of modern deep learning, a Turing Award winner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But getting LeCun, it wasn't just about throwing money at him. It was more about his commitment to a specific philosophy.
Ah, okay. What was that?
Well, LeCun had terms, non-negotiable terms apparently, that fundamentally shaped Meta's early AI identity. Our sources confirmed three main conditions.
What were they?
First, he wasn't moving from New York, which is interesting, right? A counterweight to Silicon Valley dominance.
Kept things geographically diverse. Okay.
Second, he insisted on keeping his tenured position at NYU, so keeping one foot firmly planted in academia.
Important for credibility, I imagine.
Definitely. And the third condition, probably the most important for Meta's public image and strategy, was this unwavering commitment to open research.
Open research, meaning?
Meaning publicly releasing basically all the work they did and open sourcing the code.
Wow, that was radical back then, when everyone else, Google, OpenAI later, were locking everything down.
Totally radical. So Meta's AI strategy wasn't just about playing catch-up. It was about deliberately setting up an ethical alternative, a different path than the closed garden approach.
And that commitment, that open philosophy, led directly to this dual structure they set up, the tension balance thing.
Exactly. That structure, that was the utopian design. It was engineered for this perfect synergistic flow of ideas and applications.
Okay, break that down. What were the two parts?
So on one side, you had FAIR. That stands for Fundamental AI Research.
Right.
Their job was pure blue sky thinking. AGI, frontier research, coming up with new algorithms, new theoretical model architectures, with zero pressure for immediate product application. They were meant to be looking like 10 years down the road.
The dream job for a researcher, basically.
Totally. And then on the other side, you had Gen AI, generative AI.
Okay, the application side.
Precisely. They were the execution engine, taking the breakthroughs from FAIR and actually applying them, developing the Llama models, integrating AI into Meta's products, the chat assistant, smart glasses, the metaverse stuff.
And managing the hardware.
And critically, yes, managing the huge, expensive compute infrastructure needed to train these giant models.
So the idea was this perfect loop.
Yeah, this beautiful self-perpetuating loop they envisioned. FAIR has a breakthrough idea. Gen AI turns it into a product that makes money. And that money gets plowed back into FAIR for more ambitious long-term research.
A real scientific dream within a corporation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I heard from a former FAIR employee who basically said their mission was explicitly to work on pure AGI, a luxury they could afford because Gen AI was handling the immediate profitable applications.
Sounds almost too good to be true. Corporate dreams like that, they often hit a wall, usually involving resources. When did this utopia start to crack?
The consensus from the people inside seems to be around 2022. That's when the happiest time, the era of smooth collaboration, definitively ended.
What happened in 2022?
The earthquake was the rise of large language models, LLMs. Once these models needed training with billions, eventually trillions of parameters, the whole game changed. Compute power specifically, access to those high-end GPUs, those massive server cards, suddenly became the single most critical, limited, and fiercely fought over resource.
So the very thing Gen AI was managing became the bottleneck.
Became the bottleneck and the source of conflict. Scarcity of compute cards introduced competition where there used to be collaboration. It turned that ideal flow you talked about into, well, a zero-sum game.
If Air gets the cards, Gen AI doesn't.
Precisely. As one source put it really starkly, if Air gets the GPUs for some long-term, maybe speculative AGI experiment, Gen AI doesn't have them for their Llama 4 training run, which has a hard product deadline.
Oof.
That scarcity, that resource conflict directly undermined the whole organizational structure. It couldn't function as designed anymore. And that set the stage, really, for the collapse we saw leading up to Llama 4.
Resource competition killing the dream. Classic story. But, okay, before the fall, Llama itself had this incredible reign. It really did redefine open and AI. Let's talk about that spectacular rise first. You know, I always get a kick out of the weird little origin stories in tech, like the name Llama.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, Meta just chose it because LLM, large language model, was kind of clunky for people to say. Llama sounded better.
So a simple phonetic choice.
Yeah, and that's why this foundational AI model is now forever linked to the South American animal. The whole alpaca or Yangtuo meme in AI circles, it kind of humanizes it, strangely.
It does. But yeah, funny name aside, Llama 1, when it launched back in February 2023, it was genuinely revolutionary because of its core engineering idea. Smaller parameters, better results.
That really was the initial shockwave, wasn't it? We were all kind of conditioned, bigger model equals better performance.
Right. But Llama 1's 13 billion parameter model somehow managed to outperform OpenAI's gigantic 175 billion parameter GPT-3 on several key benchmarks.
Which proves size wasn't everything.
Exactly. Efficiency, architecture, they mattered hugely. It showed you didn't need nation-state resources to get top performance.
And that efficiency, being able to run a powerful model on less hardware, made it way more accessible.
Inherently accessible, yeah. But the real game changer, the moment Meta sort of accidentally became the open source champion, was the leak.
Yes, the leak.
Just a week after launch, the model weights, the core parameters got distributed via torrent on 4chan, of all places.
Genie was out of the bottle. No putting it back.
Nope. And once those weights were out there, the open source community just exploded, developing, refining, building applications on top of it.
It created this level of accessibility that the closed models, the APIs, could never match.
For sure. And yeah, it also attracted some uncomfortable attention from Congress, suddenly asking Meta, hey, how are you going to control this thing?
Right. Which brings us to a really important technical point we need to clarify for you, the listener. Llama was often called open source, but technically it was open weights. That distinction matters, right?
It's critical. Yeah, absolutely critical to understanding Meta's strategy and the whole debate around openness in AI.
Okay, so let's break that down. If you think about machine learning having three main parts, the architecture, the weights, and the code, what exactly was Meta sharing with Llama?
Primarily, Meta was providing the weights. These are the massive files, gigabytes large, containing the trained parameter values, all the numbers the neural network learned during its training.
So giving people the weights meant they could download them, run the model on their own computers, tweak it, fine-tune it locally.
Exactly. It gave developers control over the deployed model. You weren't dependent on someone else's server or API.
But it didn't necessarily give transparency into how the model was trained.
Precisely. True open source, like the purest definition, usually means releasing the full training data, the exact training code, under a very permissive license. Meta's approach was more semi-open. They deliberately stopped short of that full transparency. However, and this is the key part, in the context of the market back then, where competitors like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google only gave you access through an expensive, often throttled API. Llama's open weights approach felt revolutionary.
It was a massive step towards openness, even if not fully open source.
Absolutely transformative. It revitalized the open source community, giving thousands of startups, researchers, tinkerers the freedom to build without worrying about API fees constantly racking up or sudden service changes pulling the rug out from under them.
The community definitely voted with their downloads, and Meta saw that right. They doubled down with Llama 2, moving from just a research utility to something much bigger.
Llama 2, which landed in July 2023, that was the moment Meta really forced the industry's hand. The big shift was offering free commercial use.
Ah, okay. Llama 1 had restrictions on that.
Yeah, Llama 1 wasn't really meant for commercial products. Llama 2 explicitly said, go ahead, build businesses on this for free.
That must have sent ripples through the industry.
Huge ripples. This move, they did it in partnership with Microsoft, and industry analysts basically credited them with fundamentally changing the landscape. They proved you could be a tech leader and still empower commercial freedom with your core models.
And developers loved it, I bet. No API throttling, no usage fees.
It was a massive competitive advantage. It forced the closed ecosystems, grudgingly, to become a bit more permissive themselves. Meta really set the standard for quality and accessibility in the open weight space.
And that momentum just kept building, right?
Yeah.
Llama 3 in 2024 was the peak.
Llama 3, throughout 2024, was Meta solidifying its position as the undisputed leader of the, let's call it, open weight community. They released rapid iterations, an 8 billion parameter 1, a 70 billion, and then the massive 405 billion parameter version.
The 405B, that was seen as genuinely competitive with the best closed models, wasn't it?
It was globally recognized, yeah. One of the strongest open foundational models out there. It really narrowed the performance gap with the closed giants like GPT-4 and Gemini to a razor's edge.
You can almost feel the internal pride reading the source material from that time. Gavin Wang, the guy on the post-training team, described Gen AI operating at light speed.
Yeah, feeling like they were truly supporting the future development of AI for everyone.
That sense of mission must have been incredibly powerful.
Oh, absolutely. The narrative inside, and partly outside too, was that Meta was the last real giant truly committed to open principles, that the whole AI startup ecosystem basically depended on Llama for its growth.
Yeah.
They felt crucial, necessary, unstoppable.
It was the absolute high point of that utopian vision, wasn't it? Aiming not just to compete, but to lead the whole field in a more open direction.
It really was. Which, of course, makes the subsequent collapse with Llama 4 all the more jarring and, frankly, painful to dissect.
Okay, so what went wrong? Meta's flying high, they're the open weight leader, aiming for market dominance, and then the organizational balance just snaps. Let's trace that pivot. The shift from research ideals to this ruthless product mandate.
Yeah, the shift. It started kind of subtly, but it picked up speed really fast after Llama 3's success. High management, we're talking Zuckerberg, and crucially, the chief product officer, Chris Cox, they started relentlessly hammering home one message.
Which was?
AI must be applied to products.
Yeah.
That became the mantra. Success for them was defined by immediate measurable integration, getting AI into Meta AI chat, into VR headsets, into smart glasses. Now.
So the focus shifted from foundational power to immediate usability.
Exactly. And this product mandate quickly got baked into the org structure.
How so?
In January 2024, there were structural changes that basically formalized this priority shift.
Yeah.
FAIR leaders, people like Joel Pineau, who co-headed FAIR, they were mandated to report directly to Chris Cox, the CPO.
Ah, so research now reports to product.
Precisely. That org shuffle was a really clear signal. Pure long-term research was now officially subservient to product timelines and commercial goals. Any research investment had to pass the "is this useful for a product soon?"
Right.
filter.
And here's where the sources point to a really critical leadership issue, right? It wasn't just what they prioritized, but who was setting those priorities.
That's a key points from the insiders, yeah. Many of the VPs and senior directors driving this new product-first strategy, their backgrounds were in more traditional areas. Infrastructure, computer vision, maybe advertising, tech.
Not deep, native LLM expertise.
Right. They lack that deep, intuitive understanding of modern LLM architecture, of AI native technology. And this created a devastating disconnect. Some sources basically described it as having inexperienced management leading experts.
Ouch. And the result was this strategic blind spot when they were planning Llama 4.
Exactly. That management gap had very tangible consequences for Llama 4.
What did they get wrong in the planning?
The planning for Llama 4 prioritized features that look great in a product demo, specifically multimodality handling images, video, audio, and other applied features, integrating it with real-world tasks.
Stuff that makes the AI assistant look cool.
Looks great for the product team, exactly. But in chasing that product breadth, they severely neglected the fundamental advancements happening in the core LLM field itself, specifically reasoning ability.
So they focused on making it do more types of things rather than making it smarter at thinking.
That's a good way to put it. They chased product features while the actual cutting edge of AI research was rapidly deepening the model's intelligence and reasoning capabilities.
And the market didn't wait. It immediately punished that strategic miss. While Llama 4 was stuck in development focusing on multimodality,
Two major competitive breakthroughs just blew past them, exposing Meta's miscalculation.
what were they?
First big disruption. OpenAI drops its O1 series in September 2024, and this release just hammered home the revolutionary importance of chain of thought reasoning, or QT.
Okay, CTU, we should probably explain that a bit. It's not just about getting the right answer right. It's about how the model gets there.
Exactly. QT is fundamental. It allows a model to break down a complex problem into multiple sequential logical steps, like showing its work.
So it's the difference between a model just spitting out a fact it memorized versus, say, solving a multi-step math problem or constructing a really detailed, logically sound argument.
Precisely. Kobe dramatically boosts general intelligence, problem-solving ability.
Okay.
Missing this meant Llama 4 was already strategically handicapped on foundational quality before it even launched.
Wow. And then came the second hit.
Then came the second disruption, December 2024. DeepSeek releases its open model, and this one showcased the incredible efficiency of the mixture of experts architecture, MOE.
MOE, wasn't that the architectural trick that could have helped solve the very resource conflict, the GPU scarcity that started this whole crisis back in Section 1?
Bingo. That's exactly right. MOE allows these huge models to operate much more efficiently, drastically cutting the cost of running them, the inference cost, because you only activate a small fraction of the total parameters for any given task.
So Llama 4 missed COTI, meaning it wasn't as smart, and it missed MOE, meaning it was inefficient and expensive to run.
Double whammy. Strategically weaker on reasoning and economically inefficient, burning through expensive compute resources right when competitors were finding ways to be leaner.
And the devastating part is, the knowledge to fix this, or at least address it, was apparently inside Meta already, sitting in FAIR.
That failure to transfer knowledge internally seems catastrophic looking back. FAIR researchers, people like Tian Yuandong, confirmed they were actively researching inference processes, different forms of COTI, before OpenAI and DeepSeek even launched their models. They had the foresight.
But it didn't get across to GenAI, the team actually building Llama 4.
It just didn't transfer effectively, or maybe not in time. The GenAI team was apparently completely impermeable to it.
Why? Was it ego, politics, or just the structure?
The sources point mainly to structure and pressure. The GenAI team was locked in this relentless tactical firefighting mode, constantly chasing the next product deadline, pushing out Llama 3-point releases, 3.1, 3.2, whatever.
Too busy shipping to think strategically.
Essentially, yeah. They became completely inaccessible to the long-term strategic researchers over at FAIR. One researcher shared this really telling anecdote, trying to message people in GenAI, just getting no replies. Then later, when that same researcher actually moved to GenAI, he realized why. He was so swamped fighting deadlines that he couldn't even reply to messages half an hour later.
Wow.
The environment had become so hyper-focused on immediate deadlines that any kind of long-term strategic thinking or integration was just impossible. No bandwidth for it.
So the GenAI team was basically too busy laying the tracks for the Llama 4 train to listen to the FAIR engineers shouting that the bridge ahead was out.
That's a pretty good analogy, yeah. And it led directly to the Llama 4 disaster in April 2025.
Okay, the launch. Scout and Maverick versions. What happened?
Immediate brutal feedback from developers. The models just underperformed expectations, especially on complex reasoning tasks exactly where CutD would have helped.
But it got worse than just underperforming, right? There was the benchmarking scandal.
Oh yeah, that's when the trust really evaporated. The trust in Meta, the company that had positioned itself as the champion of open, honest development.
What was the accusation?
The public accusation was basically bait and switch.
Yeah.
That the specific variant Meta used the Maverick version to get that spectacular second-place ranking on the El Marina leaderboard, supposedly second only to Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro.
Yeah.
That this Maverick model was allegedly a specially optimized, conversationally enhanced version, fine-tuned specifically to ace that particular public benchmark.
Suggesting it might have been overfitted and not representative of the general capabilities of the actual Llama 4 foundation model they were releasing.
Exactly. It raised serious questions about potentially misleading the community, a massive PR failure. It undermined the integrity of their benchmarks, their data, and critically, their reputation as an honest partner.
And the big consequence of that whole mess.
The major fallout was the quiet but pretty much assumed cancellation of the planned big high-end version of the model, the one codenamed Behemoth. Too much damage done.
And internally, the pressure just went nuclear after the launch failure.
Unbearable, by all accounts.
Yeah.
Senior management imposed these non-negotiable deadlines for fixes. Deadlines that, as our sources hinted, were inconvenient to share the reasoning behind, suggesting they were pretty arbitrary and product-driven, not technically feasible.
And who got pulled in to fix the mess?
The FAR research team. The very group they should have been working on the next generation of reasoning, the stuff Llama 4 missed. They got yanked into this emergency firefighting role, led by Tian Yuandong.
So they had to drop their own crucial COT research.
The very thing the company desperately needed long-term.
To urgently try and retrofit the MOE architecture into Llama 4 just to fix its immediate efficiency problems.
Yes, it's like the definition of organizational failure, putting out fires instead of building the fire station.
And the personal cost? Burnout.
Immense. We heard stories, East Coast team members working until 3 a.m. night after night, just crushed by the pressure. The core problem, as Tian Yuandong apparently analyzed it, was management's rigidity. The schedule was locked first, quality became secondary.
Deadlines over everything.
Yeah. If an engineer tried to flag a critical technical problem, the management pressure made it impossible to delay the release, even by just a week or two needed to fix it. That kind of environment where deadlines always trump quality. It basically guaranteed failure for something as complex as Llama 4.
So the idealism died. Killed by product deadlines, inflexible managers maybe lacking deep LLM understanding, prioritizing flashy features over foundational quality. The utopia was shattered. How did Zuckerberg react to all this chaos?
Zuckerberg's response was, well, characteristically aggressive. He saw the Llama 4 failure, saw the organizational mess, and reacted decisively, pouring even more money into acquisitions like Scale AI, and most crucially, bringing in Alex Wang.
Alex Wang from Scale AI, right?
The very same. Brought in specifically to execute a radical, pretty ruthless organizational restructuring.
This wasn't just tweaking the org chart, was it? This sounded like blowing up the whole FAIR GenAI structure.
Total demolition. Absolutely. The result was the creation of this new entity, Meta Superintelligence Labs, or MSL.
MSL, okay.
This new mega department basically absorbs the original FAIR, whatever was left of GenAI, and Wang's own new special acquisition team, which was internally known just as TBD to be determined.
And the new structure centralized all the power.
Completely. The chain of command tells the whole story. Alex Wang reports directly to Zuckerberg. Full stop.
And here's the detail that just seems staggering, reflecting the new reality. Jan LeCun.
Yeah.
The architect of Meta's entire AI foundation, the Turing Award winner, now reports to Alex Wang.
Correct. That symbolic shift right there that marks the definitive end of the academic-first, research-led era at Meta AI.
Wow. And that hierarchy change must have caused waves? Departures?
Immediately. Joelle Pineau, who co-headed FAIR, she left for Cohere back in May. And the product leaders seen as responsible for the Llama 4 direction, GenAI lead Ahmad Aldal, CPO Chris Cox, they were effectively sidelined from the core AI strategy.
So Alex Wang is quite young, right? 28.
Yep, 28 at the time,
Yeah.
given just unprecedented, almost like imperial authority to fix this mess.
And his new team, the TBD group, they got some pretty wild internal privileges, stuff that caused a lot of resentment.
Oh, yeah. This detail really paints the picture of how ruthless the new mandate was. The TBD group was apparently granted, get this, first, no performance reviews for 3 years.
3 years, wow. Basically insulating them from normal corporate accountability.
Exactly. Second, the ability to completely ignore communications from any other VP in the company.
What? To ensure they weren't slowed down by internal politics or bureaucracy?
Precisely. Speed above all. And third, maybe the most controversial, mandated auditing power over all Meta AI research papers before publication.
Wait, auditing power over papers written by established senior researchers. That sounds less like ensuring quality and more like installing a political control mechanism.
That's certainly how some perceived it. A way to enforce immediate applicability, to stamp out purely academic work and ensure everything aligned with the new Meta Must Win directive.
Meta must win. So quality, speed, corporate control prioritized immediately over those original open academic principles that FAIR was built on.
It's the ultimate expression of that shift. Wang's job was to deliver results fast, and he was given the power to shield his team from any internal friction that might slow them down.
And Wang laid out his plan in an internal email, right? 3 core strategic changes to fix the Llama 4 failures.
He did. 3 clear strategic pillars for the new MSL.
What were they?
First, centralized core research. Basically, tightly fuse the remaining FAIR researchers with his TBD team for foundation model work, and this connects to the layoffs.
Ah, the 600 job cuts.
Exactly. Those layoffs specifically targeted research groups that were focused on more abstract, maybe purely theoretical frontier work. Stuff that lacked that immediate high-impact application potential. The purest academic dreams of old FAIR. Filter out.
So the long-term AGI research, the original mandate, became a casualty of immediate commercial needs.
Pretty much. Second fix, elevate product integration. This wasn't just a suggestion anymore, it was a mandate. Immediately fuse model development teams with product teams.
Tighter feedback loops.
Much tighter. And they didn't just shuffle internally. They brought in heavy hitters from the outside, experienced product people like Nat Friedman, the former GitHub CEO. The goal was to ensure real-world user feedback was built into the model development process from day one. Make sure the models create a tangible, useful flywheel effect with actual users.
Okay, centralized research, elevate product. What was the third fix?
The third change went right back to the original sin, centralized infrastructure and Firmera.
Meaning the GPUs, the compute.
Exactly. Unified management of all GPUs, data centers, compute resources under a single central command structure.
Finally, addressing that resource conflict that destabilized the whole FAIR GenAI utopia in the first place.
Right. By centralizing compute, they ensure that the strategically important projects get the resources they need without the internal political battles and competition that plagued the old system.
So if you look at those 3 fixes, centralizing research, forcing product integration, unifying compute, they seem to directly target the 3 big structural failures that led to the Llama 4 disaster.
They do. Isolated research, weak product application, and resource scarcity. Wang's plan was a direct countermeasure to each of those.
It's fascinating, but also kind of sad when you think about the history here.
How so?
Yeah.
Well, FAIR's decade-long attempt to balance pure science with corporate demands. It ultimately failed, just like it did for other legendary corporate research labs, right? Bell Labs, IBM Watson, HP Labs.
That's a really good point. History repeating itself.
Yeah, they all struggled and eventually declined when the commercial pressures just overwhelmed the freedom needed for true frontier scientific exploration. Meta's FAIR, which started as this idealist stream, it just became another sacrificial victim on the altar of commercialization.
The academic principles, the openness, deemed too slow, too expensive, maybe too uncontrollable for the hyper-competitive AI race Meta finds itself in now.
That seems to be the calculus. The dream of open, academic-led AI research at Meta appears to be dead, replaced by this highly centralized, ruthless, privileged structure built entirely for market dominance. Hashtag tag outro.
So let's try and crystallize the key takeaway here for you, the listener, from this whole deep dive. Meta's AI crisis, it wasn't really about a lack of money or talent or even hardware. They arguably had the best of everything.
Right.
The failure seems fundamentally organizational and strategic. The management structure may be driven by executives who didn't have that deep native LLM expertise, prioritized product polish things like multimodality over the critical foundational advancements happening elsewhere.
Things like reasoning ability, chain of thought, the efficiency of mixture of experts, the stuff that actually proved essential for the next generation of powerful models.
Yeah, that failure to connect the brilliant, forward-looking research happening in FAIR with the actual engineering pipeline in Gen AI, that looks like the fatal strategic error.
And the resulting structure now, under Alex Wang, it's highly centralized, it's clearly politically charged, and it has definitively abandoned Meta's initial, almost utopian vision of open research leadership.
This new model, highly controlled, results-obsessed, it's now maybe seen internally as the necessary evil required just to keep pace, to compete effectively against the closed ecosystems of OpenAI, Google, Anthropic.
It paints a really stark picture, doesn't it? The apparent price of staying competitive in this AI arms race seems to be the internal demolition of the very open principles that actually helped Meta achieve its initial success and community goodwill with Llama.
Which leaves us and you with a final, pretty provocative thought to chew on.
In this global race for AGI, where the corporate and geopolitical stakes are just astronomical, is this kind of absolute internal control, this strategic ruthlessness, this abandonment of open academic principles. Is that now the unavoidable cost of simply maintaining technological competitiveness?
Does idealism, does that original FAIR vision even have a viable place left in the corporate pursuit of general intelligence? Or is it win at all costs?
A tough question, and one we don't have the answer to yet.
Definitely something to think about. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.